Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
Thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. Today, I have another fascinating person to share with you, and his name is Oscar Garcia, and he is the CEO of Introvert turned international speaker, and so much more that I don't want to spend 30 minutes telling you about it. I'm going to welcome him to the show, and then he will furnish us with all the details. Welcome, Oscar.
Thank you, Jennylyn. I'm really excited to be here. And, I remember when I worked at the Chamber, I had a TV show at the local TV station in Mountain View here. And I did, I think, for about a year and a half. And you already had your show, and you've been having this show for many years. So I want to congratulate you for the success and all the amazing people that you interviewed. So it's actually, I do feel truly special and honored that you've invited me. Thank you.
You're so sweet. Thank you. And if I remember well, you helped me a lot along this journey. So I have a lot of thanks and appreciation for you as well.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I have a hard time believing you were ever an introvert.
A lot of people do. And it's because of the misperception that we have of anyone that does public speaking, and certainly anyone that has a TV show or is on TV, it's on camera, because those are some of our biggest fears that we have. But it's true, and it's taken me a long time. And when I say a long time, I'm talking about 25 plus years to get out of my comfort zone, out of my shell. And even then, those of us that are introverts can relate to this, is that it takes a lot of energy, for example, even to do this interview here with you. And afterwards, you're just emotionally drained from it. But yeah, I refer to myself as I'm a reformed introvert.
Well, tell us, Oscar, because I know a lot of people who are very introverted. They're incredibly intelligent. They have a lot to share, but they're so introverted that even being on a Zoom call and just pretending they're just having a conversation bothers them. So
Yes.
what would you attribute the change that has catapulted you from this introverted person that you used to be to this international public speaker, someone who's changing other people's lives as dramatically as you are right now? Tell us how that change came about.
Well, so it really happened in college. I mean, throughout high school and in college, when we start doing more public speaking, typically it's like a group project. That scared me a lot. But my good friend in college, Will Rivera, who today works for the district attorney's office down in Southern California, we took many classes together, and I really admired Will's ability to just be called on the spot and talk for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes nonstop. And I would look at Will and I would be like, but I read the exact same thing that Will read, and there's no way that I could ever put together not even 3 words, let alone talk for 15 minutes like Will. I was just in awe. And there was a desire in me to be like, I want to change. And see, that's one of the first steps to anything, right? That you need to have, one, you need to acknowledge, that there's something there that either A, you don't like, or that you do like. And then the next is have that desire to change. Because if we don't have the desire to change, then nothing's ever going to happen. Okay. And then the third thing that I started to do after I graduated from college is I just embarked on a personal growth and development program. I started reading a lot of books, like one of them, The Magic of Thinking Big, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, these are the classic personal growth and development books. And it started helping strengthen my emotional muscle belief in myself. And then the other thing is being consistent and being patient in that journey, because that's the part too that just a lot of people, it derails a lot of people. We're not consistent. Just like you've had your show consistently now for 10 plus years. And the other is the patience. Many of us have this microwave mentality that we want results right away. It doesn't work that way. It takes time. So
Exactly. So, Oscar, a lot of introverted people that I know have been bullied. Did you experience any kind of bullying, and did that contribute to your introvert behavior?
there was two things that contributed. One is, yes, absolutely. And you know what? You're the first person that's ever acknowledged this about introvert people. And yes, and see, in my situation, I'm a first generation professional. I'm the only one in my family of a total of 10 siblings that went to
Ah,
college, graduated from college. My dad was a dishwasher. My mom worked in the hotel industry as in housekeeping. First grade education, my dad, my mom, middle school education. They didn't speak English. In fact, the minute I learned how to speak English, which was in kindergarten, I became my parents' translator until they passed away about 5 years ago. And so growing up, I experienced what a lot of immigrants experience, and just also just in general minorities we experience, and that is being made to feel inferior, whether it's overt or whether it's institutionalized, and that you're just not as good as the dominant culture.
mm,
That, the fact that I eat bean tacos versus peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, that there's something weird and wrong with me because of that. And so, yes, that place, that type of I guess biases, conscious or unconscious biases, became sort of like this lid for me to be able to truly
so sad.
blossom and be myself.
That
Absolutely.
makes me so sad. I see so much of it. And this is why I want to feature people like you on my show. Some people, I bring all types of people across the spectrum because people make the world. And every one of us, regardless of our culture or beliefs or ethnicities, we all contribute to
Yes.
keeping the world going and keeping life going. And we're all equally important.
Yes.
And it makes me really sad when I see the bullying. Were you born in the United States or did you come here? You
I,
were.
yeah, I was actually born in California. So my parents at the time were migrant workers down in the Coachella Valley, which is down in the Palm Springs area.
Mhm.
And a month after I was born, we moved back to Mexico, to the state of Zacatecas, which is the central part of Mexico. Lived there until I was almost 5. And then my parents, for financial reasons, decided that they want to come back to the US for about a year, save enough money, and then move back to Mexico. Well, I guess they lost track of time. They weren't good with math or whatever. We never returned back to Mexico. And so actually, shortly after we came back to California, we ended up in Mountain View. My aunt, my mom's sister, still lives here, and she was the one who encouraged us. So I've been living in Mountain View for 46 years.
Wow. How could you be here 46 years when you don't even look 46?
Well, that's because all that, the crow's cream, for the crow's feet and all that, it's working, Jennylyn. Thank you.
So now tell us what you're doing now. You are in one of the things I know you're doing is you are an international speaker, but I see you
Yes.
coaching lots of people and helping them on their journey. So tell us about that. And also
Yeah.
tell us how you got started with that.
Absolutely. So I have my own company. I've had it now for 5 years. Last month was our 5-year anniversary, and it's a speed of consulting. And so we focus on two things. One is consulting work in the area of community relations, workforce development, and then the second part of it is training. And the training is training professionals on using the LinkedIn platform, developing, promoting their professional brand, today virtual networking, and then also social selling. And so those are the two things that we focus on. And yes, to your point, I mean, my career journey goes back to, I worked in the tech industry for 12 years, 5 different startups, co-founded a nonprofit with family and friends that was totally volunteer based. And then when you and I met, at the time, I did a career transition and I was the head of the local chamber of commerce for almost 7 years. And then I decided that, again, I wanted to do something different. And I went to go work at LinkedIn. I did a 1-year consulting contract gig. And it was during that time at LinkedIn that things, my idea of starting my own business came to fruition or solidified. I'm like, yeah, I mean, really, I first started off doing consulting work. And the reality is LinkedIn was really my first client. And then from there, yeah, I expanded into the training. And today, well, not right now because of the pandemic, but last year especially, I traveled a lot to Panama, to Mexico, here in the US, doing trainings. And today, because it's virtual, I joke around, which is actually true, but about a month ago, in one day, I virtually traveled to Chicago, Miami, El Salvador, and back to Silicon Valley.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so funny how it feels like we were being prepared for what we're dealing with now. Could you imagine? Just think of for 1 minute what it would be like if we didn't have the World Wide Web.
Yes.
If we didn't have Zoom. If we did, I mean, seriously, this
Yes.
pandemic would have been a lot more traumatic.
Yes.
Life would have stopped.
Yes. I remember as a kid, buying calling cards, even as an adult, buying calling cards for my parents, and then me dialing this long, like 30-digit number plus the phone number in order for them to call to Mexico because it was cheaper via calling cards. And so yes, I thought exactly what you just mentioned. I have thought about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God for technology today.
There is a God, and he does inspire and guide us, I must tell you. So today, are you an employee or are you just on a contract with LinkedIn?
No, I'm no longer working at LinkedIn.
Okay.
That was a 1-year contract that I had back almost 5 years ago.
And so you are from, your parents are from Mexico, and
Yes.
you have lived here. You were born here. You're second generation Mexican. What was your life like, Oscar, when you first moved to Mountain View? What was that like in comparison and contrast to life now?
Yeah. So here in Mountain View back then, there was some Mexicans, not a lot. In my elementary school and in just my education, it was a small percentage of Mexicans or Latinos. Certainly, at least in the elementary school district in Mountain View, there's a large percentage, probably maybe over 50% or so,
Right.
a lot more. And the other thing too that from a business standpoint, we had it was truly a lot of manufacturing in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
A lot of the semiconductor companies, hence the name Silicon Valley. I joke around today with people that we should change the name from Silicon Valley to like Social Media Valley, because there isn't really much manufacturing being done here in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, but we have a lot of the social media companies that are here.
That's very true. I agree with you. It changed. It morphed.
Yes.
I think it will continue to morph because we were known as the tech mecca, but I hear we have competition in Africa now.
Yes, well, and then with this pandemic, it is people working remotely, right? And so, I have heard stories from my brother and sister-in-law. They have kids that are in elementary school, where their school is the school district is completely remote. And there are kids, they're not supposed to do this, but there are kids, families that have actually traveled to Italy, and the kid is taking classes from here virtually. And you'd see that also with employees, they're moving out of the area. And so I think that, to your point about Silicon Valley, that there is going to be, to some extent, this sort of this decentralization or fragmentation of the talent being spread in other parts of the world, excuse me, you know.
So, Oscar, being a second generation Mexican who lives in California now and who has evolved from this introverted person who was bullied for the many reasons you were into this strong international speaker and leader, what plans, if any, do you have for other Mexican young boys and girls like yourself who've just immigrated here or who are living here and are experiencing some of what you went through? How are you helping those people, if at all?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do is I share a lot. I mean, my area of focus as it relates to the training is on career development.
Okay.
And with career development, there are many tools. I mean, obviously, there's the traditional resume, the traditional cover letter, and then now platforms like LinkedIn, Indeed, etc. My perspective is those are tools. Those are tools. And we do need to learn how to use those tools. It's very important. You do need to learn how to create a very impressive resume, cover letter, and you also need to learn how to use LinkedIn and present yourself. But the foundation to that is believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have a purpose, okay, then these tools don't matter. It is like, for example, I am not a handyman person. I don't like to do any, putting furniture together. I hate putting IKEA furniture together. It's so simple and I still hate it. Okay. But imagine if I had a tool belt on with a hammer, screwdriver, and all these other tools. If I don't believe in my ability to use these tools and to know when to use them, they're not that important.
True.
Okay. And so what I have realized in my trainings, and to answer your questions, how do I help? One of the things, if you notice, because you and I are connected, for example, on LinkedIn, if you notice, I share a lot of personal stories. I share a lot of life lessons that I've learned. And a lot of those life lessons that I learned them from a dishwasher and a woman that works in housekeeping, my mom and dad. And see, many professionals, we don't realize that, and not just professionals, but many of us, when we look back at our upbringing, we are embarrassed, we are ashamed, we feel, because again, that whole bullying that we talked about, that our upbringing is not important. You know what? Yes, it is. I believe it is. And I'm here to share my story of how I turned crap into fertilizer, because crap, manure is fertilizer, it's crap, right? So turning that, and I use the crap in my life, the experiences, to fertilize my dreams. And that's part of the story and how I help other people.
It's so great because a large percentage of people overcome the challenges you have, and then they forget about the others who are in that same position. And I'm not saying that whenever you become successful, you're obligated to go take care of anyone else, but I think it's great when we can spend time to take what we have grown from, and if we can impart it upon other people's lives to help impact them and help them to overcome their challenges, because it's very intimidating for people when they first come to America. When I moved here, I came from an English speaking country. I had a British upbringing, so it was easier for me to come and adapt. But when you're coming here and you have the bullying and you have the challenge of not knowing the language and understanding the system, and your parents can't provide most of the tools you need to help you adjust, it's really challenging. And I think a lot about
Mm-hmm.
these people and wonder if I could do anything to help. But I'm just a little fish in the pond, and I need lots of other fishes to help. And I'm not just talking about people from Mexico. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of people in general. We live in a country where nobody should go hungry, no one should go without medical care, and no one should be submerged because of bullying or whatever. We should all help each other. With our
Yes.
political climate as it is now, Oscar, how do you think, as a person in your position, you can somehow bridge the divide?
Well, so
You can,
here's,
because it's
yeah, yeah. So here's the thing. First off, is that I've had my person in office, and I've not had my person in office. Meaning my political beliefs.
right.
And at the end of the day, it still falls under my responsibility to move forward. And again, in spite the challenges, the circumstances.
Right.
So that's one thing that I believe. The other thing is that for me is that I focus on where my strengths are and provide that. It is kind of like, imagine if you and I were going to cook dinner, and so when you cook dinner, it's like dinner isn't made up of one ingredient, multiple ingredients, and every ingredient has its role in the flavor of that meal. It's important. You leave one ingredient out and you're going to be like, it doesn't taste as good, but okay, whatever. And so to answer your question is that I believe that if I focus on my strengths and deliver what those strengths are, I'm adding to the overall ingredient of success.
Mhm.
You keep doing what you're doing through your show, you are also contributing. And if we all focus on just contributing and adding to our strength to this overall recipe of success, we're going to influence a lot of people. I don't focus on the overall meal because I can't. I focus on my strength, on my ingredient.
I love that answer because I try not to get people say, oh, I don't want to get involved in politics. You can't say that because what is happening in the political arena is going to affect everybody's life.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
we're all responsible on some levels to pay attention and do what we can do to diffuse the confusion and bridge the divide. And that's why I asked you that question, because there's so many people in this country that are struggling. I mean, the pandemic has really wreaked havoc on everyone's
Yes.
life.
Yes.
Nobody can say, oh, I'm not getting involved with the pandemic. It's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
you have a choice. You have the obligation to protect yourself and those around you. So we're dealing with that, and then we have a toxic political climate, and then we have all the other challenges that come with the current state of affairs in the world right now. Like
Yes.
the children cannot go to schools. Um, I have a friend who works in the school district, and I know that a lot of Mexican families are challenged at this time because most
Yes.
parents do not speak English and it's difficult for them to help the children. Also,
Yes.
they have the challenge of not really being savvy with social media. My
Yep.
heart aches for those people. In addition to putting food on the table, they now have the extra stress of helping their children with their education.
Yes.
Is there
Yes.
anything that your organization can do to help these people?
Well, so actually, what I'm doing already is that so. Oh, about a month ago, I gave a talk to a group of actually Mount View High School students and Los Altos High School students that are part of this program called AVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, which AVID is a program that helps either low income minority students stay on track and on the 4-year college track. And so this year, because we're virtual, I did some talks on goal setting, also sharing just my own personal story, and encouraging and motivating them. The other thing is that we do is and I do this targeting specifically Hispanic serving institutions here in the US. These are colleges and universities that have at least 25% or more of the students of Latinos. And so I do free webinars for them on job search strategies during the
Oh,
pandemic,
great.
virtual networking, those type of topics, anything, helping them with their LinkedIn. And again, it's our way to at least virtually, continue to help students with their career journey.
Thank you so much for doing that. I think if each of us just take some time to see how we can make an impact on young people's lives, especially because they are the next generation that is going to take over from here. And
Yes.
I think we were privileged because we had so much education at our fingertips. We just had to, and they have more now, but with the challenge of not being in a classroom, so that when they're stuck, they have someone
Yes.
there to help them. I really think in some ways might set some people back, which I hope not.
Yeah. And no, unfortunately, I think so. I think it will, because I mean, naturally, human beings, we're social creatures. We do need to be around other people, and there are some benefits, but there's also some downsides to the virtual world. And there are also then some students that do just need more of that hand holding. Like for me, like one of the things that I realized about my own learning style is I'm very visual. I do need someone to explain things to me, and going to office hours. I love that, going to the teacher or the professor, like, can you help me? Versus self-paced. I can do self-paced, but I'm a lot slower to learn. And so, now there might be instances where, yes, people can say, well, the teacher's available for office hours. Yeah, I know. But then there's also the whole, going back to being an introvert, that like, oh my gosh, I don't know, am I bothering them? Do I feel comfortable, etc.? I mean, there's these other factors that play into that negatively impact the learning of certain students.
And as someone who was introverted, could you imagine a child who is introverted in this particular climate, not in a classroom, totally feeding into that, right?
Yes.
What would you say to someone watching this segment who may have a child who's introverted or who is introverted? What advice can you offer to them to help them to sort of blossom out of it? Because a lot of times, if you're introverted, you could be stuck.
Yeah. So let me approach your answer from an immigrant's perspective, okay? Because, and more specifically from a Mexican immigrant's perspective. So in Mexico, the education system and just the attitude is there with parents, the dynamics between a parent and a teacher is that the education system, the teacher has a lot of authority, a lot of respect, and that the school system really looks after the child and puts in the time and effort, et cetera, and so forth. So as a parent, it's like when you go to Nordstrom's, you have an expectation that you're going to get quality customer service. That is the expectation that you have. You're not going to get crappy service at Nordstrom. So as a parent in Mexico, when you take your child, you give your child to the school district for the day of the school, there is that expectation that the school district will do the best to look after the well-being of the child. In the US, the expectation is that as a parent, we advocate on behalf of our children. We have to advocate. That is it. And so as a Mexican immigrant family parent, when you come here, that short circuits your brain because you're not used to that. You're like, why do I need to advocate if I have total faith in the school system that they're supposed to do the best? But you and I know that that isn't always the case. And so one is, as a parent here, it is important that we understand that difference, and therefore that we advocate for our child, for whether maybe it's getting a laptop. There are some school districts that give their kids laptop because the family can't afford it or whatever, extra help, et cetera, and so forth. The other thing too that I encourage is look at getting your child involved with some type of other student, parents or groups that can provide that support. Because one of the things that helped me as I was growing up is, and it wasn't that we did this consciously, it was just sort of kind of like, now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God it worked out that way. And that is that surrounded myself, or I was part of groups of other students that were taking college courses. And so it is like, if you want to learn how to play baseball, you're going to hang out with other baseball players. You're not going to hang out with soccer players, baseball players. So the power of association and that influence is very important. So those are two things that I would recommend.
So we're out of time, but before I wrap this up, I'm going to ask you, what message would you like to leave for people who are being bullied, on how you dealt with it that worked for you that you think might work for them?
So I say this, oftentimes actually hear, and we see this on social media, and people talk about this, said, use your voice, use your voice. And it's like, or find your voice. And my whole thing is that we all have a voice. We just need to have the courage to use our voice. The second thing is that I truly believe that one person with courage is a majority. If you don't believe this, go back in history. Who was Rosa Parks? At the time, Rosa Parks was just an average person like you and I, nobody. And one day she had
Hey, I am somebody, stop.
One day she had the courage to not give up her seat to a white guy. And as a result of that, look what ended up happening. Mm-hmm. And again, we can go throughout the world in history, one person, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, whomever. And sometimes we feel that we can't make a difference. Yes, we can. Because if we don't step out, if we don't have that courage and step out, oftentimes no one else will.
Right. Oscar, I am so grateful that I had the chance to do this with you. And I am really hoping that someone watching this show, as I always do with all my segments, there will get something from you that will have an indelible mark on their life for change, because it worked for you and you are a huge success, and we celebrate your success, that they can take a page out of your book and what you've shared and do the best they can to create a great life for themselves. And once again, I thank you, Oscar.
Thank you, Jennylyn. You're very, very kind, and I really appreciate it. And I wish you continued success in your show. And 20, 30 years down the road, you're still doing this. And all, with that big smile that you have and that big heart too as well. So thank you.
And thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired. And if you're not inspired by Oscar, you are asleep during this interview. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.